So we're going to start with making the holidays wildly stress-free. You would be surprised at how many people, maybe you have been one of them as well, so there's no judgment, but how many people say, I can't start right now because the holidays are coming. Well, I hate to break it to you, but so long as you are existing on this earth in this society, you will have holidays, regardless of if you're losing weight, if you're maintaining your weight, if you're chasing a performance goal. Like, you're always going to have the holidays. At some point, you have to learn how to balance them, unless you want to keep gaining and losing 10 pounds over December, which isn't ideal, right? So with that said, we're going to talk about how to handle it stress-free, how to approach it mentally, and then also what strategy to implement depending on your goal. So there will be some different ways that we approach it, and we'll teach you kind of some of the typical downfalls too, and how to avoid them.
Mm-hmm. And so one of the things we want to talk about is the identity, right? Your identity is going to be the thing that influences you the most, right? And so the identity of one changes with how they perceive reality. So if we're thinking of this season as something, hope we got two other people coming in, so I'm going to let them in right now. But if we think of this season as something that's stressful, right? If we think of our fitness journey as something that's taking away from our ability to be present, something that's taking away from our ability to enjoy the holiday season, that perception is going to be based in how we feel about ourselves. And that's going to impact everything that we create. Whereas if we think of this as like, hey, I want to be healthy, I want to be present, I want to feel good, it's going to make the world a difference in how we are actually able to approach it.
Yeah. So the first thing that we want to share, and just to really set the frame, remember, the holidays are really just a few days. It's Halloween, it's Christmas, or whatever holidays you celebrate, and it's Thanksgiving, right? Like, it's like several days. It's not 3 whole months of eating your face off. It is 3 days, right? And maybe a little bit more. Now, when it comes to identity, you have to remember that you are becoming somebody in this process, right? You want to become somebody different in order for you to live a healthy, fit lifestyle. You want to elevate your identity. You want to become a healthy, fit person, regardless of what season you're in. So just think of the holidays, think of the next few months as just another season to learn and grow through. Don't add any extra pressure to be perfect, to restrict, keep yourself from eating cookies. Like, we'll walk you through how to balance this. But the most important thing is the holidays are only a few days, so don't stress yourself out. 2, you're becoming a healthy, fit person, and healthy, fit people still go about the holidays and enjoy themselves. We are 2 of them.
Yeah. And I think that the idea too is thinking of a healthy, fit person as not the person who only eats green beans and turkey
at Thanksgiving,
but the person who their whole life is a healthy life, right? Which means that, and a healthy life has great people in it. Healthy life has things that make you feel joyful and bring a positive energy to it. So if we're really focusing on health, first and foremost, it's the health that you define.
Yes.
And the great thing is let's say you have a weight loss goal or you have a body composition goal or something like, if you focus on your health first, you will make progress and you will be healthier long-term because you put your health first. Whereas if we're just focusing on calories and getting as many steps in as we can, we're chasing something that really doesn't bring a whole lot of meaning to our life. And so what we want to focus on is, like Lindsay said, becoming a healthy, fit person. But really, why do the holidays exist? Do the holidays exist so that we can fill our face with pie and stuffing? No, the holidays exist so we can make memories, right? Just like we have that little child there, right? It's like, it's all about making memories, right? It's all about the people who are around us. And so we want to shift our focus from so much of the food, which is a part of the experience, to the people. And we want to also aim to make progress without sacrificing memories or experiences.
And the belief that will instill in you is that you can do that. Like, a lot of people, and this is a fine goal too, but you can make progress, whether it's with your performance or weight loss, fat loss, and enjoy the holidays. Like, it's not one or the other. Like, you really can do both at the same time. You just have to know how to approach it and be intentional about it, right? If you don't set the goal, you're not going to do it. So if your goal is to not gain 10 pounds, then you might gain 2, right? So you got to set the goal accordingly, but you can do both. Okay. So that's important. And then Go
Well,
ahead.
what I also want to remember is one day and one meal will not break your progress.
Yes.
Right. So we have to be able to understand that most of the progress that you're going to experience in this journey is going to start internal and it's going to manifest externally. So like this is a belief and a mindset that we have to shift, right? The stress of, oh, I ate bad yesterday, so I have to eat bad today, or I ate badly yesterday and I have to be perfect today. It's like, hey,
Neither.
I chose to eat pie and stuffing and a little bit of candy yesterday, and today I'm going to eat healthy. I'm not going to judge myself. I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm going to understand that that's not going to dictate my progress. And the strategies that we're going to give you today too are not going to make it, are going to make it so you're not overeating as well. Right. So we have to have the right mental approach, but understanding that one thing is not going to derail your progress.
Yeah. And then I already mentioned the last one. These are just key points, but you have to set your expectation, like set your own expectation, set your target, and keep focus on the right habits, which are what we're going to walk you through. We're going to give you 4 different habits depending on your goals. So before, where to start with all this, right? Like that's the mental frame. And that's super important because that's going to dictate how you perceive these actions we're going to share with you. So you have to have the right frame. But then when it comes to where to actually start, first, before even going into the holidays, which basically start next week with Halloween, identify your own criteria for success. So we're going to have all of you do this. Ask yourself which bucket you fit in right now. Are you maintaining? Meaning like maintaining your progress, maintaining your weight, maintaining your lifestyle. Are you going after a fat loss goal right now? Or is that your main like primary physical goal? Or are you going after a performance goal? Meaning maybe you're losing weight, but maybe that's more secondary to building muscle, or maybe that's more secondary to running a race, or there's something else that you're striving towards physically.
And even something to think about with performance, it might be health, right? So maybe your goal is to reduce inflammation in your body.
Yeah.
Maybe your goal is to have more energy and focus throughout the day, right? That's still something you could articulate as a performance-based
I would agree
goal.
with that. Yeah.
So thinking of it, because who here has ever overeaten and felt like garbage the next day?
Or had like brain fog and been like, yeah.
If it makes you feel better, that's how I'm feeling today.
Because we ate a lot of Mexican food
yesterday
last night.
we went to an amazing Mexican restaurant with one of our friends while he was in Dallas.
Great margaritas.
And I had way too many chips
on a Sunday.
But the point is, we all know that feeling, right? It happens, but we have to also understand that that's not something that allows us to perform as our best. And so we can decide to change our behavior so that we're in alignment with something better.
Yeah.
And so you all, right, you get to ask yourself the question like, hey, in this season, am I just trying to like keep things going, trying to be consistent? I'm not necessarily striving towards a goal. Do I have a specific goal that I want for my body, right? Which we encourage you to own, right? Each one of us, like Lindsay and I have competed, we've run, we've done a lot of things. I think it's important that you take the ownership of the goal that inspires you, because it inspires you, right? You're called to do it. Yeah. Or if there's a performance or health-based goal, right? Then we establish that. We're going to show you how to approach each one of them.
And before we go into how to do it, put it in the chat. Like, what's your primary bucket? You're probably in a little bit of all of them, but like, what's the primary bucket that's inspiring you, that's pushing you, that you're driving towards right now? Put it in the chat. That way you have a criteria, like, so that when you're going through this, you know which applies for you.
Love it.
Fat loss,
going after
fat loss, strength,
fat loss. We got a bunch of fat loss. Excellent.
Good stuff. Keep going and make sure that you identify which bucket you're in before we keep going.
So yeah.
Now, before we go on to the how, I want to share a quick little fat loss, muscle strength. Awesome. Before we go into the how, I want to express a pitfall that a lot of people experience. You guys and I have probably talked about this at some point, but one thing that people perceive about fitness and health or healthy actions are that just because you are healthy or you walk or you eat better, quote unquote better, you're going to also lose fat or lose weight, right? Like you guys know what I'm talking about. You see some nods. Just because you arbitrarily eat healthy does not equate to fat loss results. So if you go through the holidays just saying like blanket statement, I'm just going to try to eat healthier. That doesn't mean you're going to lose fat. So that's why we encourage you own the goal and then listen to what we're going to share. And I'll explain more of what that means, but that's a typical downfall. Is like, if I just eat healthier and don't overeat, then I'm going to lose weight. It's a little bit different. So maintenance is what that gives you.
Yeah. One of the things I always say is beware the errors of life, the healthier, happier, better, right? We want to be very specific, right? I want to try to eat this way consistently. I want this as my goal. The more specific we can be, the better chances are we have at hitting our target.
Yeah. So we're going to start with the strategy that you would take if you're maintaining. Now, remember this for next year too, right? Like at some point, you're not going to be on a weight loss, fat loss journey, right? I hope. That's our goal and our intention.
And just because you are not maintaining does not mean you can't gain anything from these principles.
True.
So
these are the base.
Yes.
These are
this
the
is your base.
And if any of you are just focused on maintenance through the holidays or any particular holiday, you would just fall back to this. So this is the fallback to maintenance. So first, these are all strategy. This is all a strategy to maintain or just a base level like habits. First thing to focus on is always focus on just the habit of moving your body, right? Like that top left corner. Like your coach most likely has told you a zillion times, just move your body today. 10 minutes of movement. Just get 10 minutes of movement. This keeps you focused. It keeps you in the lane and reminds you, oh, I chose a healthy action today, right? It helps you mentally to stay in that flow, which leads to another healthy action and another healthy action.
What we want to remember is that movement, right? The ability to move, motion creates emotion. So if you want to feel better, you want to have more focus and more energy, maintaining that habit of movement is always something that's going to be a must.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we're moving our body, right, whether it's working out or even going for a walk or doing something else, we also need to be eating mindfully, right? So stick to healthy whole foods. Now, that's something that is a principle for maintaining, but it's really a principle for everything you're going to do this season. Eat mindfully. And what we want to approach ideally is about 80 to 90% of the time, a healthy whole food based diet. That means eating food that are not highly processed or as close to their natural source as possible. So a lot of times we end up overeating like the sugars, the sweets, and we don't feel full, right? But if we can eat mindfully healthy food, then when we have the actual experience where it's like it's Thanksgiving Day or it's the actual holiday that we're celebrating, it's going to be easier to eat and then pull back because everything else that we're doing in our daily life is consistent with that healthy diet.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like, just imagine yourself eating at 3 or 4 meals in a day. They're all healthy, whole foods. You feel satisfied. They're tasty meals, hopefully. Right. And you're eating that throughout the day. And then towards the end of the day, you're like, I'm pretty full, pretty satisfied, but I really would like a piece of that, like my kids' Halloween candy. It's not going to make a difference. You're not going to eat 20 of them. Whereas if you're like, oh, I'm going to skip a meal so I can have some candy later. It's like, you'll be starving and you'll way overeat the candy and you'll feel like crap about yourself. Right. Like, so it's far better to think, okay, let me fill my whole day with healthy food and then I'll stack some of that on. Right. So slow down, enjoy those things because we do not expect you to never eat a cookie or a baked good except on Christmas Day, right? Like that's not the intention either. So slow down, enjoy those things. And then on those days of celebration that do come up, be sure to hydrate, eat whatever you want until you're 90% full. That's the caveat. Most people wait till they're like 115% full, feel like they're going to die, sleep, and then way over exercise the day after to try to like undo it. Right. So try to eat till you're 90% full, 80 to 90%. And I know that can be difficult, but it's just slowing down a little bit and just committing in advance. I'm going to eat until I'm like pretty close to full and then I'm going to halt for a little bit. That's all you have to do.
How is this received right now? How are we doing? Good. Okay. Awesome.
Good. Little tweaks.
And you're my icon that I can see the most.
You're my icon.
You are my icon. You're like the person I'm looking up to. But it's important to remember to also like, let's keep focusing on rest, right? You want to make sure you're getting enough sleep, want to stay hydrated, right? All those factors matter. I know for me, there's some days where I'm like, oh, I'm really hungry. And I kind of audit myself. And I'm like, I haven't had any water today. Mm-hmm. So that's something to be cognizant of because that's going to matter. And then the most important thing that we can do, right? It's like if you fall down, get back up, right? Whatever you're doing that you feel like, oh, that wasn't what I wanted to do, just get back to normal, remove the emotion, fall back into the habit.
Overdo it.
Don't judge yourself, just get back into the habit. And so these are what we're going to set as the baseline. And this is where we're really going to move into what's going to be helpful for you all, which is hitting a specific goal, right? And so the most important thing you can do, if you could just take away one thing from this call, It's workout. Just do your workouts. Now, think of it this way. Each one of you right now is in this program where you're trying to work out and you're trying to eat healthier, right? You're changing these two factors. Maybe you're focusing on sleep. Maybe there's some other things you're doing with your coach. But those are the two habits you're putting in place. And we can talk about, hey, not judging yourself. We can talk about all these things. But in this season, the one factor that is going to change more than anything is your nutrition, right? You're going to have parties. You're going to be invited places. There's going to be cookies around. There's going to be all these things happening. So it's easier to say, hey, my nutrition is going to be something that might not be 100% perfect. And that's okay. But the one thing that if we keep it constant will make the world a difference in how well we do is our workouts. If we keep working out 3 to 4 days a week, depending on your target, but ideally 3 to 4, if we keep that habit in place, then what happens is when it's time for the holidays to be done and the holidays diet goes back to normal, you don't have to go build the habit of working out again, right? Whereas a lot of times people say, I'm going to stop eating well and there's no point in working out. So they let both habits fall away. And if you're not working out well, how do you think you're going to diet? You think it's going to be great? Or you think you're probably going to, let it go south, right? So we have these things called keystone habits. Is what a lot of your coaches are going to teach you. But a keystone habit is the one habit that improves everything else. So you think about it, if you work out in the morning, as an example, you'll probably eat healthier. If you eat healthier, you'll probably sleep better. If you sleep better, you'll probably have more energy. So it doesn't mean that you have to work out in the morning, but if you do one healthy thing in this whole experience that makes the world a difference in how your body looks and how you feel about it, it's continuing to work out. That's the most important thing you can do for your scheduling and everything else.
Yeah. And I'm actually going to skip over to staying committed because I think that in order for you to lose fat throughout the holidays and continue to make progress without stress, it's coming back to remembering what you're committed to, which is your choice. Like if you choose to lose fat through the holidays and that's your goal, you've chosen that goal. So beyond that, it's being empowered with that decision. It's like, oh, I've chosen to stay committed to the goal that I set a month ago. Like, go me, good job, pat myself on the back, right? It's not something that you have to over explain. It's not something that you have to stress yourself out about or restrict or feel restricted about. It's something that you've chosen to do and you need to stay committed to that, right? And then give yourself a lot of credit for that choice. So that's like the mindset that I think is really important if you're losing fat throughout the holidays. And your coach will guide you on the strategy to make sure you don't actually have to miss out on anything, but just mentally for yourself, give yourself a lot of credit for staying committed and make that choice, right? Like make it a conscious decision before you go in. But this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to prioritize this.
And it's your decision, right? Feel damn good about it. It's like, yeah, I am doing this for myself. Or I might be doing it for myself and my kids. I might be doing it for myself and my colleagues. Like this feels good. I don't have to stress about it.
Yeah, it's not a negative thing.
And that's all in our association, right? We can see, you have two choices right now. You can see it as you're gaining something or you're losing something, right? If I see this season as, oh, I can't do the things that I enjoy, I have to do this thing, then it's going to be miserable, right? And you're not going to feel good. You're not going to follow through because that doesn't get you very far. But if you see it as something like, hey, like I worked out today, go me. Like, I feel really good about this. That has a ripple effect. And I guarantee you will be more pleasant during the holidays. I guarantee it, right? I guarantee that everyone will agree. Now it's a trade-off, right? We got to find our way to negotiate that with other people around us, right? You can't be out there running marathons on Christmas Eve. That's what I did once. Not a good decision. I regret it kind of. But right, it didn't negotiate well. So that's why we're here to teach you how to not do that.
Balance.
And so the third thing is continuing to eat lean and satisfying meals. So on Christmas, or let's say Thanksgiving, because that's like the cornerstone that is easiest right now. It's choosing to have a lean and healthy breakfast. Instead of thinking, oh, I have to fast or I'm going to start with just like the normal, I have pancakes or whatever that holiday might be. It's like, hey, I'm going to have a lean, healthy meal beforehand. So that way, when I actually show up for the meal, I can satisfy myself, right? I can eat enough. I'm not ravenous, but I'm still kind of checking those boxes to make sure that my body is taken care of.
Yeah, there might be, and there's different approaches that you could take to this too, but this is just what we suggest, just from so many years of testing different theories and approaches. Mentally, when you're on a weight loss journey, you make your life a lot easier if you don't go into the holiday meals starving. Just point blank. Like, it's better to have a 200 calorie, 300 calorie breakfast that is like kind of your normal breakfast, and then you eat the holiday meal kind of like you would a normal one, just with a lot of different variety, maybe more volume. And then that's pretty much what you eat for the day, right? And then you have your pie or whatever. So don't try to like pull back or do extra cardio or do extra anything. Like, do not do that. You will set yourself up to eat way more than you would otherwise. Like, kind of just treat it like a normal day with a special meal versus a meal that you have to over index on, if that makes sense. And then the last piece of this, aside from Thanksgiving Day or maybe Christmas Day, because we don't always suggest everybody track all their food on the holidays. I personally did that one year, I think, when I was prepping for a bodybuilding show. So it's a little different. You can make that choice yourself and talk to your coach about it. But regardless, every day otherwise, be intentional, be mindful, and actually pre-track your food, right? If the fat loss is your goal, you still will want to do that.
Let's say you're going out with a colleague or you have a work party. You're like, I know they're going to have pizza. I know that I'm probably going to want a couple slices. You can, if you're tracking your food that day, you can just put in your MyFitnessPal, 2 slices of pizza. Mm-hmm. And you've already accounted for that for your total calorie intake. Now, we don't want to have you eating pizza every day, right? I mean, you'd be fine if you did, but the most important thing is your calorie expenditure from a fat loss standpoint. So as long as you're hitting your calorie target, which for most of you probably like 17 to 2,000 calories, give or take whatever your coach is having you do. Yeah, super exciting to have that, right, Ange? Right? It's not going to be a 1,200 calorie diet. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be eating that, but that's what you want to be ideally eating is a higher amount of calories for what your body actually needs, right? If we're going to a 1,200 calorie diet, your body doesn't have, that's why a lot of people who diet are miserable, because they're eating food that they don't like, and they're at such a low calorie deficit or high calorie deficit that they are hungry and they don't have energy and they're not giving their body the nutrients that they need. Mm-hmm. And so the point is, you should be eating enough calories at this point when you're going through this process that you can still have 1 or 2 pieces of pizza. You could still have a slice of pie. You can still have those things. And that's where being mindful, right? I often tell people, has anyone ever had like 5 cookies, like a roll of Oreos or something like that? Has anyone ever done or had like a bowl of ice cream that was endless because you just kept going back?
Multiple bowls of cereal.
Yeah. So, all right. So this is something I think is so true, and I might be wrong. I'm allowed to be wrong, but let's say you have 5 Oreos. Well, the truth is you really only enjoy the first one and the 5th one. Right? The first one is like, damn, this Oreo is so good, I want another. And then you're kind of like, the second one, you're working your way to number 3. Like, you kind of know, like, I'm eating this one and but it's not as good as number 1. Maybe number 3 will be as good as number 1. And so you have number 3 and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But there's 2 more left. You eat number 4 and there's so much guilt wrapped up, and you're like, all right, the last one, because the roll is there and I'm going to really enjoy it. And that last cookie, you probably have like 4 or 5 bites out of a 2 cookies or 2 bite cookie, right? So the point is, we can do that same thing with just 2 cookies, right? We can enjoy 1 cookie and make it satisfy us as much as 3, and then have a second one and enjoy it too. It's all about being present.
Yeah.
It's all about choosing to taste your food, choosing to enjoy the food, choosing to be present.
And choose to incorporate things that you want anyway. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the other big thing. And I think probably the last point that we'll leave you with when it comes to fat loss, but add things in at the beginning of the day that you want. Like, if it's Halloween, you're going to have some mini like Snickers or whatever, like, just go ahead and track them. Just go ahead, add them in. Don't wait until the end of the day and be like, ooh, can I fit it? Like, oh, maybe I'll have some. It's like, if you want it, just like track it beforehand. Don't feel like you have to restrict yourself.
And the caveat to this is also self-awareness.
Yes.
Right. So it is important that you understand your own boundaries and your own relationship with food. right? Like Lindsay and I, we don't keep a lot of ice cream in the house because someone eats it all. That person's me. But I still enjoy ice cream probably once a week. I just know that like keeping the container around, it doesn't suit me. But if I want to go get ice cream, there's an ice cream shop a couple minutes down the road. I'll go and get one every Friday, right? So you can have that self-awareness in this game to be able to understand like, hey, I can track three Snicker bites and I'm going to be good. I trained that day, so maybe I'm going to use it as like a pre-workout snack, right? Like maybe it's going to be your energy to go work out, whatever you want to do. Just understand that there's not a whole lot of restriction that you actually have to put on yourself.
Correct. Yeah.
If you work out, you eat healthy and you're mindful and you're focused on your target and you're really feeling good about it, this process will get you to where you want to be. Is everyone following?
Any questions? Because all of you are focused on fat loss. Any questions while we're here?
Okay, awesome.
Feel free to put them in the chat if needed. And then for those of you who, are more focused on building muscle, or maybe I think all of you will be, if you're not right now, but you're going to be doing this in the process of losing fat too. Biggest things for performance goals. So, and health goals are first and foremost, like when it comes to performance, just get your training in first, right? And we say that this should be the case because when you're training for a performance goal, if it is a race or if it is something where you're trying to build muscle or you're trying to get this in no matter what, just get it done first thing. It also boosts your mental clarity. So if this performance or health goal is related to your mental clarity, then training first thing in the morning is going to be far better for your day and for your mental clarity than training in the afternoon or training in the evening. And it's a lot easier to get it in throughout the holidays. So that's the other piece, is like, just prioritize it. Get it done. It's going to help your mind. It's going to help your body. It'll help your consistency across the board. Second, focus. This is the biggest difference, I would say. When it comes to performance and health, the mind game is focusing on fueling your body, right? And that doesn't mean any of you should be thinking differently, like food is not fuel. But when it comes to performance, you have to think about really fueling your body, because the fuel you put in, whether it's unleaded, premium, or diesel, is going to have a very different impact on your engine, right? So your fuel directly impacts your runs, your strength, your workouts, your overall energy based on the type of fuel you put in. I always tell people 2,000 calories of ice cream is very different from 2,000 calories of 4 healthy meals that have proteins, fats, and carbs, plus a little bit of chocolate, right? Like 2 totally different games, 2 totally different energy levels after that. So prioritize. The 2 things that we kind of simplify it down to are prioritize your carbs to fuel. So again, don't steer away from carbs. You can have some of them in there, but all your carbs shouldn't come from cookies. So prioritize carbs to fuel and protein to recover. That's how you want to think about it, because your body needs the protein to rebuild after your challenging workouts or your strength or anything that you're doing for your exercise. So those really go together. And
then sleep, right? The most undervalued approach or habit is going to be our sleep, right? We've already hammered on that a little bit, but you can focus on getting a solid 7 hours or 8 hours, wherever you're at, right? Maybe you have to get 6 because you're not that consistent. Understand that the way you sleep radically impacts your energy and focus, and you'll actually make better food choices the next day.
Yep, that is studied.
So if you sleep adequately, you're going to be more conscious and have more willpower. And then just plan ahead, right? And more importantly, be present. So if you know you're going to have, you want to jump in?
No, it's okay.
Okay, thank you. So if you know that you're going to have, a holiday party on Friday, then make sure you get your workouts in beforehand, or make sure that you schedule your food accordingly so that day you're on point. One thing that's also helpful is think of your weekly allotted calories rather than just a day-to-day. Right. So I can pull back my calories a little bit on a Wednesday because I know Thursday I'm going to have a little bit more food. Right. So instead of thinking like I need to be like hitting 1,700 calories every single day, it's like, well, maybe I go to 1,500 on this 1 or 2 days. I really think it's important. You're never starving yourself. So it's like even removing that word from our vocabulary, right? If we're eating 1,500 calories, we're good. Like your body's good. It's just we're building a little bit more of a calorie deficit. So we're just pulling back a little bit. I'm going to be more focused on eating vegetables and lean protein on those days so that I can plan ahead and know, hey, Thursday we're going out. I'm going to have a little more food. I can plan accordingly and still make sure I'm making progress.
Yeah. And I think the mindset around that is very important. So don't misunderstand. You're not pulling back food so you can stuff your face. It's again a self-awareness thing. It's like if you know you're going to have a huge meal tonight, then you probably wouldn't have a huge lunch, right? Like it's more just understanding that you can ebb and flow with it, and you can still hit your performance goals. You can still feel great and feel healthy if you adjust your weekly calories rather than just your daily or just your meal by meal, right? A lot of people feel like they have to eat the exact same amount of calories every meal. You totally don't have to do that at all, right? Like it's just your daily calories. So what we're saying is very similar. It's like you just need to look at mostly your weekly calories rather than just your daily, and you're still going to have that same impact and be able to perform, be able to lose weight if that's part of your goal set as well. So when it comes to planning ahead, that's one way to do it. But then the other way, when it comes to performance and workouts and holidays and how those things kind of come together, I encourage you all to invite other people to join you for walks, for runs, for workouts. I know Kylie brings, well, it's like, I don't know if you bring your boyfriend or if you guys just go together, or if he already goes. I'm sure he does. He's in the military. But with that said, like invite other people to join you, make it part of your family. Like don't feel like it's just you isolated doing this. Embrace the process, right? Like embrace that this is something that you're intentionally putting into your life. And a lot of you are doing it for your kids or for your future self or what have you. So bring other people along with you and make it a part of the process where you can.
Yeah.
And where it doesn't impact your performance.
Make it fun, right?
Make it fun.
It does not have to be miserable. You should
Yes.
not be miserable. Lindsay and I are not miserable people because we enjoy this, and we encourage you to choose the same thing.
Do the same. Yes.
But the most important thing, right? The most important thing is that we are present and we find gratitude, right? The holidays are for being present with those we love. It's for celebrating life, and it's for cherishing the good things that we have, right? And so we want to be able to bring a sense of gratitude to that. If we do that, then it becomes a lot easier to not have to stress about food, because we're focusing on, like, you have to even think, and I'm not saying this as a thing to be negative towards any of you, but we have to think like our culture. If we're thinking like, oh, well, I have to overeat. It's like, why do I have to overeat? Like, there's so much abundance. I should be grateful that I have that food instead of feeling like I have to eat it all now. Right? It's a totally different shift if I see the food as something that's nourishing to my body, that I get to celebrate with those I love. So it's just kind of taking that stress valve that we feel at this time of year and just letting it off a little bit. And if we do that, and we keep working out and we keep doing those little habits, right?
Yeah.
It becomes something that we remember forever.
Yeah. And I would say that one thing you can lean on too, when it comes to actually approaching these bigger meals or the season, is your brain cannot put all of its attention on how much you should or shouldn't be eating and engage in conversation fully. So pick one, right? Like, where do you really want to put your attention, your energy, your focus? Do you want to listen to what somebody else is saying and fully engage in the conversation? Or do you want to be thinking about how much you're eating, how much you should stop, and how you should take your next bite and then be done? Like, try to pour your attention into the former, and that will make it far easier to just eat, notice that you're full, and say, okay, I'm good. Like, I'm really focused on this conversation, right? It sounds very simple, but these are things that we don't do because we have a default, right? Like, because we have a default approach when it comes to these big meals or holidays or sweets or what have you, and that default takes over. So consciously make a choice to focus on the people rather than just the food. And that's going to make the world of difference when it comes to you setting the intention beforehand and then actually following through on your own intention for yourself. That's a game changer, just being present. So with that said, this is where we want to wrap for today. And we want you guys to we have 15, 20 minutes left. So we want you to now, before we go into Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and all of the things, answer these 3 questions. First, what would make the holiday season incredible for you? In lieu of this health and fitness journey you're on, right? Or weight loss journey. What would make it incredible? And then what's your ideal? You can idealize here because you're allowed to say, I don't really know my plan. That's okay. Think of your ideal, like how you'd like to handle the holidays, right? To stay on track. And then third, where do you need the most support in order to maintain your progress or continue progressing? That way you have the awareness and you can ask us and you can also ask your coach, but you have to have that awareness first. So bonus is, which is your favorite holiday of the three? But go ahead, take a second, answer these questions, write them down. Well, I'll leave this up for probably, I'll give you all 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes max, maybe a little bit less, but just jot down some ideas and then we'll share these and go around and then we'll wrap for the day. Does anybody need support or have questions that came up throughout this? And I loved all the comments in the chat. That's why this little space is really great, because you can kind of see you're not crazy. And the things that you experience, everybody else does too at some capacity, and you can learn from each other. So love to see everybody back here next month. But does anybody have questions or anywhere they need support for today before we let y'all go? Otherwise, we get a thumbs up.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Well, thank you all for being here. We hope you have a wonderful Halloween, right? That'll be the first one. And then we'll see you all in November. And just a reminder too, we haven't talked about this, but we do have, one of the things that we do every holiday season is virtual 5K. And so we have talked about this, and just so you actually understand like the intention and what it is that we're talking about the Dash for Hope. The last few years, we've raised over $5,000 or almost $5,000 for local charities. We've given them to
Our families.
Yeah, last year we gave to a foundation here in Dallas that helps single mothers provide hotel rooms and gifts for them and their kids during Christmas. And we also gave $1,200 for a local food pantry in New Hampshire, which is where we're originally from. So we kind of try to spread the wealth. But we're doing this on November 19th. And all the proceeds that come from like the actual signups go to local families in need and those charitable organizations. So just so if you see us talking about it, it's November 19th. We're going to have hot spots all throughout New England and Texas. So you can join in or you can join us virtually. But that's one of the things that we're doing, and we do it every year and like to give back during this time.
Yeah, so we'd love to have you guys or your families make it a fun thing, or just do it yourself, or just donate, either regardless of what it is or how much. It would greatly appreciated. So we're trying to hit a big goal this year. So if anybody has any questions though, anybody needs support, then just let us know. Or if you can't find the link, just ask me and I'll send it your way. But nonetheless, have a great evening and kick some ass this week.
Cheers.
Bye everybody. Bye ladies.